The stars bent and twisted as the Korthax hegemony's grand fleet tore through the fabric of space. 847 warships emerged from their faster-than-light jump, their hulls gleaming like dark jewels against the black void. They had arrived at the edge of the Sol system, home to a species that still sent radio waves into space like children shouting in the dark. Fleet Commander Zixthara stood on the bridge of the flagship Time's Eternal Dominion Asterisk, his three eyes scanning the holographic displays. Behind him, officers moved between stations with practiced efficiency. The air smelled of ozone and confidence. "Report," Zixthara commanded, his mandibles clicking together. The sensor officer turned, her skin flickering with pleased colors. "Long-range scans confirm. Intelligence reports. Commander, the third planet shows industrial development, nuclear fission capability, and fragmented political structures. They have primitive stations in orbit, no energy shields detected, no quantum signatures, no gravitational manipulation." Zixthara felt satisfaction ripple through his body. 12 star systems had fallen before the hegemony's might. This would be the 13th, and the easiest. The humans had barely left their own planet. Their fastest ships still relied on chemical combustion. They were infants, playing with fire. "They do not even have a unified planetary government," the intelligence officer added, pulling up data streams. 7 major power blocks, constant territorial disputes, weapons still based on explosive propulsion. "Commander, they are exactly where we were 3,000 years ago." The bridge crew clicked their mandibles in amusement. 3,000 years. The humans were primitives, frozen in technological childhood, while the galaxy had moved on without them. Zixthara activated the fleet-wide communication channel. "All ships, this is the commander. Today, we bring another species into the embrace of the hegemony. We will be merciful. As always, those who surrender will be incorporated. Those who resist will be examples. Begin standard subjugation protocol." Across the fleet, communication officers began broadcasting on all frequencies. The message was simple, translated into the humans' various languages through intercepted transmissions. "Surrender your planet. Accept hegemony rule, or face annihilation. Your weapons cannot harm us. Your defenses cannot stop us. Submit and live as servants. Resist and die as fools." Zixthara studied the tactical display. The humans had a small colony on the 4th planet, Mars. Perhaps 30,000 individuals. Mining operations. Research stations. It would serve perfectly as a demonstration. The hegemony had learned long ago that primitive species needed to see their helplessness before they would surrender. Hope was dangerous. Hopelessness brought compliance. "Prepare Strike Group Talon," Zixthara ordered. 50 ships. They will proceed to the Mars colony and destroy one of the surface installations. Not all of them. Just enough to show the humans what we can do. "Yes, Commander." The tactical officer began designating ships. Strike Group Talon broke away from the main fleet, their engines burning bright as they accelerated inward toward the red planet. Zixthara watched them go, then turned his attention to the 3rd planet, Earth. So much blue, so much water. The humans had evolved on a paradise world and never learned to appreciate it. The hegemony would teach them gratitude. Hours passed. The strike group reported steady progress toward Mars. Human satellites had detected them, of course. Primitive, electromagnetic sensors, easy to spot. The humans would be panicking now, their leaders arguing, their people screaming. Then the communications went silent. Zixthara's head snapped toward the communication station. The officer's skin flickered with confusion. "Unknown. Commander." All signals ceased simultaneously. No distress calls, no weapons fire detected, no energy signatures of any kind. They simply stopped. "Get them back online. Now." "Trying, Commander." No response. All channels dead. A cold feeling spread through Zixthara's chest. 50 ships did not simply go silent. Equipment failed, yes, but not simultaneously across 50 different vessels. He had seen combat across a dozen worlds. He knew what battle looked like on sensors. This was not battle. This was something else. Deploy deep scan probes. I want to know what happened to my ships. On Earth, deep in a mountain facility that had never appeared on any satellite map, Commander Sarah Chen watched the alien fleet on displays that showed things no ordinary telescope could see. The walls around her hummed with power that bent space itself just to exist. The Mars defense grid took care of their strike force. Her tactical officer reported. 50 ships eliminated. 0 survivors. Causality disruptors worked exactly as designed. Chen nodded slowly. Around her, the command center operated in near silence. No alarms, no panic. Just professionals doing a job they had trained for across hundreds of simulations. Any response from the main fleet? She asked. They are deploying probes, trying to understand what happened. Chen allowed herself a small smile. Understanding would not help them. The Korthax hegemony had made the same mistake every other species made when they looked at humanity. They saw radio waves and chemical rockets. They saw nations fighting each other over resources and borders. They saw what humanity wanted them to see. They never saw the 300 years of post-singularity development. They never detected the quantum computers woven into Earth's core. They never noticed that human satellites were actually observation posts for weapons that could rewrite local physics. Open a channel, Chen ordered. Single transmission. All frequencies. The communication officer nodded. Channel open. Commander. Chen spoke clearly, knowing her words would reach every ship in the alien fleet. You have been warned. Turn back. Then she closed the channel and returned to her coffee. It was going to be a long night. They always insisted on learning the hard way. The Mars colony sprawled across the rust-colored landscape like a collection of metal mushrooms. 30,000 humans lived and worked there, mining rare minerals and conducting research far from Earth's crowded cities. To the approaching Korthax strike force, it looked completely defenseless. Strike Group Talon Commander Vrex studied the scan results with growing confidence. The colony had basic radiation shielding, life support systems, and a few industrial mining lasers. Nothing that could threaten even a single hegemony warship, let alone 50. All ships, assume bombardment formation, Vrex ordered. We will destroy the northern mining complex. The humans need to understand their situation. The 50 ships spread out in a textbook attack pattern, their weapons charging, targeting systems locked onto the mining facility. In another few seconds, particle beams would reduce it to molten slag, and the demonstration would be complete. Then space itself began to twist. The first sign was a shimmer, like heat waves on a summer road. Vrex's sensor officer called out in confusion as readings went wild. Energy signatures appeared that made no sense, operating on frequencies that should not exist. Commander, I am detecting. The officer never finished. Reality around the strike group folded in on itself. Vrex watched in horror as the ship directly ahead of him exploded. But the explosion was wrong. It happened backward. He saw the debris contracting inward, saw the flash of light diminishing instead of expanding, saw the ship whole again for just a moment before it exploded forward in the proper direction. Evasive action! Vrex screamed. But his words meant nothing now. Around the strike group, hidden platforms activated. They had been there all along. Invisible to Korthax sensors because they existed slightly outside normal space-time. Humanity called them causality disruptors, though that name did not truly capture what they did. The weapons reached forward in time, 10 seconds into the future. They found the moment when each Korthax ship would fire its weapons. Then they pulled that moment backward and made it happen now, but redirected the targeting. Each ship suddenly experienced its own weapons fire, launched from its future self, striking its present self. Vrex's tactical display became a nightmare. Ships exploded around him as their own particle beams, missiles, and plasma torpedoes struck them. But the weapons had not been fired yet. His mind could not process the impossibility. How could they be hit by weapons they had not yet used? Jump to FTL, Vrex ordered desperately. Emergency retreat. His engineer's voice came back, thick with panic. Cannot engage FTL, Commander. Something is wrong with space itself. The drive cannot find the normal dimensions. Because space around them had been locked. Another human defense system, this one creating a bubble of altered space-time where faster-than-light travel was mathematically impossible. The Korthax ships were trapped, moving at normal speeds, while their own future weapons destroyed them. 25 ships died in the first 15 seconds. The survivors scattered, trying to escape the kill zone. But the causality disruptors had no maximum range. They could reach forward in time anywhere within the bubble. Then the railguns opened fire. From the surface of Mars, from platforms hidden beneath the regolith for decades, magnetic acceleration systems launched projectiles. But these were not ordinary bullets. They were telephone pole-sized tungsten rods, accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed. When something moving that fast hits a spaceship, the spaceship does not explode. It simply ceases to exist in any recognizable form. The kinetic energy converts matter to plasma instantly. Vrex watched 5 more ships vanish, replaced by expanding clouds of superheated gas. His own ship shuddered as a projectile passed within 100 meters, the near miss creating a shockwave through the hull. All remaining ships, retreat at maximum sublight, Vrex commanded. Pride was gone. Protocol was gone. Only survival remained. 12 ships remained out of 50. They turned and burned hard, engines at maximum, racing away from Mars. The causality disruptors let them go. The railguns fell silent. The humans had made their point. Aboard the Times Eternal Dominion Asterisk, Zeke-Thara watched the sensor recordings over and over. His officers stood silent around him, their skin colors muted with shock. Explain this, Zeke-Thara demanded, his voice hollow. The science officer stepped forward hesitantly. Commander, the humans appear to have weaponized temporal mechanics. They are striking our ships with weapons that exist in causal loops. Each ship is being destroyed by its own future weapons fire. That is impossible. Yes, Commander. It should be impossible. The energy requirements alone would exceed the total output of a star. The computational power needed to map and manipulate causality would require computers larger than planets. Zeke-Thara's mandibles clicked slowly as understanding crept over him. Unless they are not limited to our understanding of physics. The intelligence officer pulled up new data, his hands shaking. Commander, I have been reviewing all intelligence on the human species. We may have made a critical error. Show me. The display changed, showing a timeline of human development. We based our assessment on their radio transmissions, which show a species that developed industrial technology approximately 200 of their years ago. We assumed they were still in early technological development. And, Commander, there is a 300-year gap in their technological progression that we cannot account for. 200 years ago, they were launching chemical rockets. 100 years ago, they had fusion power and quantum computers. 50 years ago, all signs of rapid development stopped. Their visible technology has remained static since then. What are you saying? The intelligence officer's skin flickered with fear. I am saying that a species does not stop advancing. Either they destroy themselves, or they advance beyond our ability to detect them. The humans may have been post-singularity for 3 centuries, Commander. Everything we see, the primitive satellites, the chemical rockets, the political divisions, it may all be theater. Zeke-Thara felt his blood run cold. A post-singularity civilization. One that had cracked the fundamental codes of reality itself and had been hiding it from the galaxy. And he had just attacked them. His communication console lit up. A priority message from Hegemony High Command. He opened it, already knowing what it would say. Fleet Commander Zeke-Thara, initial reports of resistance are noted. You are hereby ordered to proceed with full assault on the third planet. Commit all forces. The hegemony does not retreat. End transmission. Zeke-Thara looked at the tactical display. 797 ships remained. Surely that was enough. Surely the humans could not stop an entire fleet, but deep inside, in a place he did not want to acknowledge, he already knew they could. The Grand Fleet moved inward through the Sol system, like a swarm of locusts, 797 warships strong. But the confidence that had carried them across 12 conquests was gone. Every officer, every crew member, watched their sensors with growing dread. Zeke-Thara stood on his bridge, mandibles clenched tight. 3 days had passed since the Mars disaster. 3 days of advancing through a silent system where nothing attacked them, yet everything felt wrong. "Commander," the sensor officer called out. "Human vessels detected, finally." Zeke-Thara leaned forward. "How many? What class?" 12 ships, Commander. Frigate-sized, no major weapons signatures visible. 12 ships, against nearly 800. Zeke-Thara should have felt relief. Instead, his combat instincts screamed danger. Battle stations. All ships prepare for engagement. The fleet shifted into combat formation. Weapons charged. Shields powered to maximum. 800 warships focused on 12 targets. The human ships vanished, not cloaked. The sensors did not show stealth signatures or electromagnetic dampening. The ships simply stopped existing in normal space. One moment they were there. The next moment, reality held no record of them ever being present. "Where did they go?" Zeke-Thara demanded. "Unknown, Commander. They are not in normal space. They are not in any adjacent dimensions we can detect. They are simply gone." A science officer spoke up quietly. "Commander, there are theoretical papers on quantum superposition at macro scales. If a vessel could be placed in a state of quantum uncertainty, it could exist in multiple positions simultaneously until observation collapsed the wave function." "Speak plainly," Zeke-Thara snapped. "The human ships may exist everywhere and nowhere until they choose to be observed again." The fleet continued inward. No attacks came. No human ships reappeared. Just the endless black void and the distant sun growing slowly larger. Then the first temporal echo hit. Lieutenant Vax was monitoring the engineering deck when he suddenly remembered dying. The memory was vivid and immediate. He remembered alarms blaring, fire spreading through the corridors, his body burning as he tried to reach an escape pod that would not open. He remembered his final thoughts, his regret, the pain. Then he blinked and was standing at his post. Alive and whole. But the memory remained, as real as any other memory, in his mind. He was not the only one. Across the fleet, crew members began experiencing memories of their own deaths. Explosions, weapons fire, vacuum exposure, radiation poisoning, each death different, each memory terrifyingly detailed, each one something that had not happened yet. Medical bays filled with psychologically traumatized crew members, some catatonic, others screaming about deaths they remembered but had not experienced. The fleet's psychologists had no explanation. The memories were not hallucinations. Brain scans showed them as genuine memories, stored in neural pathways as if they had truly happened. "They are showing us our futures," Zeke-Thara's science officer whispered. "The humans are demonstrating that they can see forward in time. They are sending back memories of what will happen to us. Then we change course. We alter our tactics. The future is not fixed. Commander, quantum mechanics suggests that observation of the future creates that future. By seeing how we die, we may be ensuring it happens exactly that way." Zeke-Thara had no response to that. The fleet pressed on. But now they were traveling through their own graveyard, watching their future deaths approach with every kilometer. 3 ships were lost to what human technical manuals would later call probability mines. These weapons did not exist in normal space. They existed as quantum possibilities, spread across billions of potential positions. When a ship passed through the affected region, the mine's wave function collapsed into whichever position would cause the most catastrophic damage. The Times' severed claw Times experienced a critical reactor failure that, according to their engineers, had a 1 in 10 billion chance of occurring naturally. Yet it occurred. The ship's fusion plant went supercritical, and 800 crew members died in an instant. The Times' relentless honor Times suffered a navigational computer error that sent it directly into the path of another hegemony vessel. Both ships were destroyed in the collision. The error should have been impossible. Multiple redundant systems should have prevented it. Yet every redundant system failed simultaneously. The Times' pride of Korthax Times simply came apart. Molecular bonds throughout the hull weakened and failed at the same instant. The ship dissolved into its component atoms, like sugar in water. One moment it was there, the next it was an expanding cloud of debris. They are not destroying us, Zixthara realized. They are demonstrating. His tactical officer looked at him with all three eyes wide. Commander? They could destroy the entire fleet instantly if they wanted to. Instead, they are showing us, ship by ship, that resistance is futile. They are trying to make us leave. Then should we not leave, Commander? Zixthara thought of High Command's orders. Proceed with full assault. The hegemony does not retreat. If he turned back now, he would be executed for cowardice. If he continued forward, he might be executing himself and everyone under his command. He was trapped between two different kinds of death. We continue, he said quietly. If we are to die, we die with honor. But honor felt like a cold comfort as Earth grew larger in the view screens. The planet appeared normal on visual scans. White clouds, blue oceans, green and brown continents. But surrounding it was a sphere of something that sensors identified as organized dark matter. Dark matter that should not be able to be organized. Dark matter that should not interact with normal matter except through gravity. Yet the humans had weaponized it. Analysis of the barrier? Zixthara asked. The science officer worked his console, then stopped. His skin went pale. Commander, the dark matter sphere is not a barrier. It is a computational substrate. What does that mean? It means that the humans have built a computer out of dark matter, and that computer surrounds their entire planet. The processing power available in such a structure would be, I cannot even estimate it, millions of times greater than our most advanced systems. A weapon that was also a computer. Or a computer that was also a weapon. Zixthara no longer knew if there was a difference. All ships, he commanded. Prepare for final assault. Target the dark matter barrier. The fleet aligned, weapons locked on target. 794 ships prepared to unleash their combined firepower on the mysterious sphere around Earth. Zixthara took a breath, mandibles trembling. Fire, 800,000 particle beams, plasma torpedoes, and kinetic projectiles lanced out toward Earth. The dark matter sphere absorbed them all without a flicker. Then, something incredible happened. Every computer system in the Korthax fleet received a massive data upload. Complete schematics of every ship, personal files of every crew member, medical records, tactical plans, communication logs, classified command protocols, everything. The humans had already hacked them. When? Zixthara whispered. When did they penetrate our systems? His information officer was frantically checking logs. Commander, the intrusion timestamp shows. It shows the moment we entered the Sol system. They hacked every ship simultaneously the instant we arrived. They have been inside our systems for days. Days. The humans had owned their computers for days and had done nothing. Just watched. Waited. Demonstrated their power slowly. Methodically. Giving the Korthax every chance to retreat. The 12 human ships reappeared. Then they were 24 ships. Then 48. Then 96. Then 144. Zixthara understood. They were not reinforcements. They were temporal duplicates. pulled from parallel timelines. The humans could reach across the multiverse itself and call alternate versions of their own ships. "Commander," his tactical officer said, voice breaking. "How do we fight an enemy that can call infinite reinforcements from infinite realities?" Zixthara had no answer. He had no answers left at all. Zixthara stared at the tactical display, where 144 human ships now floated in formations that hurt to look at. They moved in patterns that defied three-dimensional space, occupying positions that should have overlapped but somehow did not. "All ships," he transmitted across the fleet. "Full weapons release. Everything we have. Overwhelm them with volume of fire." It was desperation, and everyone knew it. But desperation was all he had left. 794 Korthax warships opened fire simultaneously. The void between them and Earth lit up with enough energy to sterilize a planet. Particle beams capable of cutting through mountains, missiles carrying fusion warheads, plasma bolts hot enough to melt titanium in microseconds. All of it converging on the human ships. The human vessels did not dodge. They did not raise shields. They simply phased. Half of each ship existed in normal space. The other half existed somewhere else. Somewhere sensors could not detect. Weapons passed through them like light through glass. The energy that should have vaporized them simply continued on into empty space, dissipating harmlessly. "They exist partially outside our dimension," the science officer reported, his voice hollow with defeat. "They are only anchored to our reality enough to interact when they choose to." Then the human ships returned fire, but not with weapons. With information. Targeting lasers reached out from each human vessel, touching the Korthax ships. But these were not ordinary lasers. They carried data streams that rewrote computer systems at the quantum level. In microseconds, the humans uploaded new programming to every Korthax vessel they touched. Zixthara watched in horror as his tactical display changed. New information flooded across every screen. Information he should not have access to. Complete maps of human defensive systems, full specifications of their weapons, detailed analysis of their capabilities. They were showing him exactly how outmatched he was. The report scrolled across his screen. 40,000 autonomous defense platforms orbiting Earth, each containing a stabilized micro-black hole with a mass of approximately 1 kilogram, each capable of being deployed as a weapon. Impossible. Zixthara breathed. Stabilizing a black hole requires exotic matter we have only theorized about. Containing it requires energy output greater than our entire fleet. See. And yet they have 40,000 of them, his science officer replied. "Commander, we are not fighting a civilization. We are fighting gods, who happen to look like bipedal mammals." The communication console lit up. An incoming transmission from the human vessels. Audio only. Zixthara accepted it, because there was nothing else to do. The voice that spoke was female, calm, almost gentle. It spoke in perfect Korthax language, without translation delay. "Fleet Commander Zixthara. This is Commander Sarah Chen of the Sol Defense Network. You have demonstrated remarkable persistence. But this ends now. You have two options. Surrender or die," Zixthara asked bitterly. "A familiar choice." "No," Chen replied. "You may surrender, and we will allow you to leave this system with your lives and your ships. You will return to your government and inform them that Sol is protected by forces they cannot comprehend. Or you may continue your assault, and we will demonstrate why 300 species have attempted to invade Earth in the past century, and 0 have succeeded. 300 attempts." Zixthara felt his legs weaken. 300 invasion forces sent to conquer a primitive backwater planet. And somehow, Endinti, dollars not, Endinfrenting, dollars not and T, dollars notters not, Endinfriend. The galaxy had never heard of any of them. "Why?" Zixthara asked. "Why do you hide? With your technology, you could dominate the entire galaxy." "Because domination requires maintenance," Chen replied. Empires require administration, control, constant vigilance against rebellion. It is exhausting and pointless. We prefer to be left alone. We show ourselves to be primitive, and most species ignore us. The few who do not learn the same lesson you are learning now, and if we surrender, if we leave, then you leave. We have no interest in conquest or revenge. We simply want to exist in peace. We can. Zeke-Thara looked around his bridge at his crew. They were looking back at him with hope in their eyes. Hope that he would choose survival over honor. He thought of the 50 ships lost at Mars. The 3 lost to probability mines. The crews experiencing their own future deaths. He thought of High Command's orders to proceed with full assault. Orders given from officers who had never faced an enemy like this. He made his decision. All ships, he transmitted fleet-wide. Cease fire. Prepare for tactical withdrawal to the outer system. We are accepting the human offer of surrender. Relief flooded through the fleet like a physical wave. Ships powered down weapons, turned to retreat vectors. No, Chen's voice said quietly. Surrender denied. The words hit Zeke-Thara like a physical blow. What? You offered. I offered surrender before you fired on us, Chen interrupted. You chose to attack instead. Now you will learn the lesson completely. Or you will teach nothing when you return home. Panic seized Zeke-Thara's chest. We are retreating. We are leaving your system. You came here to conquer. You brought 800 warships to enslave a planet. You fired first at Mars, killing 312 human civilians in your demonstration attack. Did you think there would be no consequences? What do you want? Zeke-Thara screamed. We want to make sure you understand, Chen said. 40,000 defense platforms are now active. Each contains a stabilized micro-black hole. Each is now targeting your fleet. You have 10 seconds to make peace with whatever gods you believe in. Wait, please. Humanity does not attack first, Fleet Commander. But when attacked, we ensure the lesson is permanent. 3, 2, 1. The darkness came. Not an explosion. Not fire or light or energy. Simply an absence. A void that swallowed everything. Zeke-Thara felt his ship lurch. Then reality twisted. He saw his bridge crew frozen in time. Mouths open in screams that had not yet sounded. He saw the hull of his ship peeling away layer by layer, atoms separating, molecules dissolving, but not destroyed, erased. He saw the grand fleet around him, all 794 ships, existing in every moment of their journey simultaneously. He saw them arriving at Sol, saw them attacking Mars, saw them advancing on Earth. All of it happening at once, time compressed into a single eternal moment. Then he saw it running backward, the fleet retreating from Earth. The ships lost to probability mines reassembling. The strike group at Mars returning to life. The grand fleet jumping back to the edge of the system, and then nothing. Not death. Not even memory. Just the absolute certainty that none of it had ever happened at all. In the command center deep below Earth's surface, Sarah Chen watched the alien fleet vanish from every sensor simultaneously. Not destroyed. Retroactively prevented from ever arriving. Causality erasure complete, her tactical officer reported. Timeline rewritten. The Korthax fleet never entered Sol space. What about the hegemony? Chen asked. Will they remember? Quantum entanglement ensures they will retain memories of events that no longer occurred. They will remember sending a fleet that never arrived. They will have records of ships that no longer exist. They will know, but they will not be able to prove it. Chen nodded and made a note in her log. Invasion attempt number 67. Terminated with full causality erasure. 0 human casualties. Another routine day protecting a planet that most of the galaxy thought was helpless. Send the updated warning to all major galactic powers, she ordered. Standard message. Sol system remains under protection. Do not approach. Yes, Commander. Chen closed her files and stood. Her shift was over. Somewhere above her, billions of humans went about their lives, completely unaware that they had just been saved from an invasion that never happened. That was how she preferred it. Let the galaxy think humanity was primitive. Let them see chemical rockets and political divisions. Let them never suspect what slept in the dark spaces between the planets, waiting patiently for the next species that needed to learn the same lesson. The lesson was always the same. Leave Sol alone. High Counselor Theron stood in the Grand Assembly Hall of the Korthax hegemony, surrounded by the supreme rulers of 300 conquered worlds. The chamber was built to inspire awe, with ceilings that stretched into darkness and walls covered in the names of every species that had bent the knee to Korthax power. Soon, he had planned, Earth would be added to that list. He checked the chronometer. Fleet Commander Zixthara should have made contact by now. The Grand Fleet had been gone for 10 standard cycles, more than enough time to reach Sol, subjugate the primitives, and send word of victory. Instead, there was only silence. High Counselor. His aide approached nervously. Still no communication from the Sol expedition. What is the last confirmed position? They jumped from Station Outpost 7, proceeding to coordinates of Sol system. After that, nothing. No status updates, no distress calls, no battle reports. Just silence. Theron felt unease crawl up his spine. 800 warships did not simply vanish without sending any communication at all. Even if every vessel was destroyed, someone would have transmitted something before the end. Send a scout ship. Find out what happened to our fleet. Yes, High Counselor. There is one other matter. What? The aide pulled up a holographic display. Fleet records show anomalies. We have logs indicating that the Grand Fleet was dispatched to Sol system. We have crew assignments, supply requisitions, tactical plans. But when we cross-reference with actual fleet positions, the ships never left. That makes no sense. Show me the ship roster. The display changed. Theron stared at it, confusion mounting. According to current records, all 847 vessels of the Grand Fleet were present at their assigned stations. The Times Eternal Dominion Times was in orbit around the homeworld. Strike Group Talon was on patrol in the Vexor sector. Every ship was exactly where it should be. But Theron remembered sending them to Sol. He remembered the ceremony, the speeches, the certainty of victory. He had personal logs of the deployment. Other counselors had memories of it. The families of crew members remembered saying goodbye. Yet the official records showed the fleet had never left. This is some kind of data corruption, Theron said. But his voice lacked conviction. High Counselor, perhaps. But 800 ship crews also remember being dispatched. They remember leaving, flying through space toward Sol. Then they remember waking up at their regular posts with no memory of returning. Some of them have combat trauma despite never seeing combat. Medical is reporting widespread psychological issues. Theron sat down heavily. Contact the Intelligence Division. I want to know everything we have on the Sol system. Immediately. Within an hour, intelligence officers filled his private chamber. They brought files, sensor logs, intercepted transmissions. Theron reviewed it all, with growing horror. This analysis shows 374 distinct military actions against Sol system over the past 100 standard years, the chief intelligence officer reported. Different species, different attack vectors, different technology levels, all resulted in the same outcome, which was, the invasion forces ceased to exist. Not destroyed, erased. In most cases, even the records of the invasions were wiped, leaving only personal memories and fragmented documentation. How is that possible? The officer pulled up a classified file marked with the highest security clearance. 20 years ago, a deep space probe detected unusual energy signatures from the Sol system. We sent a science team to investigate. 3 ships, 50 researchers. They never returned. but we did receive a single heavily corrupted data packet before contact was lost. The holographic display showed fragments of scientific data, most of it scrambled beyond recognition. But a few phrases had survived translation. Post-singularity civilization, temporal manipulation, weaponized fundamental forces, reality editing, recommend immediate quarantine. Rext. Why was I never informed of this? Theron demanded. Because the High Council at the time determined the data was unreliable. The idea that a species could manipulate reality itself seemed like superstition. The decision was made to attempt subjugation with overwhelming force. Theron thought of 800 ships that both had and had not been sent to Sol. Of crews who remembered battles that never happened. Of an enemy that fought by erasing the fight itself. Pull all intelligence assets from Sol system. Mark it as a quarantine zone. Highest classification. Any ship approaching those coordinates is to be stopped by any means necessary. Yes, High Counselor. What reason shall we give? Unstable spatial anomalies. Navigational hazard. Anything. Just keep our people away from there. The intelligence officers left. Theron sat alone in his chamber, staring at the star maps. Sol was such a small system. An insignificant yellow star with primitive radio transmissions. How could something so apparently weak be so incomprehensibly dangerous? The answer came to him slowly. Because that was exactly what they wanted everyone to think. Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out in a dozen other spacefaring civilizations. The Zephyr Collective woke to find their invasion fleet had never launched, despite clear memories of sending it. The Chromatic Union discovered survey reports of Sol that read like fiction, describing weapons that violated known physics. The Hive Aggregate quietly reclassified Sol system as hostile environment, avoid contact. And in each case, the decision-makers faced the same impossible choice. Acknowledge that humanity possessed technology so advanced it appeared like magic, or pretend the system was simply not worth the trouble. Most chose to pretend. It was easier that way. In the Galactic Senate, a massive chamber where 3,000 species met to negotiate, trade, and resolve disputes, a minor agenda item appeared on the schedule, proposed by the Korthax hegemony, seconded by the Zephyr Collective, and supported by 12 other civilizations. The proposal was simple. One sentence. Translated into 3,000 languages. The Sol system is hereby designated as Quarantine Zone Omega. No contact is to be attempted for any reason. It passed unanimously. No discussion. Everyone who had approached Sol voted yes. Everyone who had not approached Sol did not care enough to vote no. The galactic maps were updated. A small sphere appeared around the Sol system, colored red. Warning beacons were placed at approach vectors. Ships were programmed to route around it automatically, and slowly, the galaxy forgot about humanity. They became a footnote, a system to avoid, a minor mystery not worth investigating. The radio signals still leaked out into space, showing a primitive civilization arguing with itself. Perfect camouflage for what actually lived there. On Earth, in the same mountain facility where she had watched the Korthax fleet arrive and then unarrive, Commander Sarah Chen updated her records. Invasion attempt 67 terminated. Causality erasure successful. Galactic response. Senate quarantine. Current threat level. Green. She closed the file and opened another. Invasion attempt 68 was already forming. A species called the Orothians. Convinced they had technology advanced enough to challenge whoever protected Sol. They would learn. They always did. Chen walked to the observation window that looked out over the command center. Hundreds of officers monitored defenses that the galaxy could not detect. Quantum sensors that saw into parallel universes. Weapons that rewrote physics. Computers made of dark matter that calculated possibilities trillions of years into the future. And above them all, on the surface of Earth, 9 billion humans lived completely normal lives. They went to work, fell in love, argued about politics, created art, raised children, Most of them had no idea that 300 species had tried to invade their home. Most of them would never know. That was how humanity wanted it. 300 years ago, they had cracked the code of reality itself. They had achieved post-singularity status, merged their consciousness with quantum computation, learned to manipulate space and time like clay. They could have conquered the galaxy easily. Instead, they chose to stay home, because conquest was exhausting. Empires collapsed. Subjects rebelled. Power corrupted. Better to appear weak, stay hidden, and live in peace. Better to let the galaxy ignore them. Better to maintain the silence. Chen turned back to her console as alerts showed the Orothian fleet beginning to mobilize. She sighed and started preparing the standard response protocols. In a few weeks, the Orothians would approach Sol System. They would see primitive satellites and chemical rockets. They would feel confident, and then they would enter the silence. They always did. High above Earth, invisible to every sensor the galaxy possessed, the 40,000 defense platforms drifted in perfect formation. Each one contained the power to unmake reality. Each one waited patiently for the next species that needed to learn. The lesson was always the same. The lesson never changed. Leave Sol alone, and in the vast darkness of space, between the stars where light took years to travel, the warning spread from species to species, passed in hushed transmissions and classified files, spoken in military academies and intelligence briefings. There is a system called Sol. There are creatures there called humans. They appear primitive. They appear divided. They appear weak. Do not believe it. Do not approach. They entered the Sol system, and everything after became silence.